We have been traveling the month of June through a series on the journey that is within, and reminded that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. This is how easy it is to get going. Where you are seated now, I invite you just to literally move one foot forward. And the next time you get a bit stuck, just move your foot and be reminded that it's just one step at a time. We are all on a path journeying somewhere, winding paths, straight paths, bumpy roads, steep cliffs, meandering trails, high points, low valleys, wide plains. There are times when the directions seem really clear, or sometimes the area is unmarked and the territories look a bit foreign. We're off our routes, completely lost. We can also find our way back, and then for a while it kind of feels like smooth sailing. One thing is for certain, we're all somewhere on the journey, and it isn't going to stay the same. For the only constant in life, say it with me, of course. The journey constantly changes. You know this from where you have already traveled in life. So where are you today on the journey? How would you describe the road that you are on? The experience that you are having? The layout of the land around you? There are great moments of mountaintop experiences, and other times of low traumatic events, and other times of mundane plateaus. There are times when we purposely need to just veer off and take a different way, or make a new path, or carve our way through the rock. There are times in the journey when we need to take time away. Everyday routines that are getting to be a bit too much. Have a vacation, go on a trip, seek a different path. You may remember the famous poet Robert Frost. He says, "Two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference." Well, that seems a bit far too serious for us. I prefer Yogi Bear when he says, "If you come to a fork in the road, take it." That seems like great wisdom. It's sometimes difficult to determine which way to go anyway, and which one is less traveled. When we come to a moment of a choice, which one's going to be the better one? We aren't really always sure. Just want to pause for a moment as we get in and finish off the series of the journey, just to recap the last 4 ones, so that we can conclude today this series. When you're about to embark on a journey, one of the very first questions you ask is, where are you going? What's your itinerary? When the Israelites began their exodus, they didn't know where they were going, which created this fear in them and uncertainty. In the desert, they complained then to God for provisions. They wanted to go back to Egypt because it's what they knew. As Pastor James said, the underlying issue was fear. The Israelites demand water and food in the wilderness, but didn't seem to remember the burdens and hopelessness of forced labor and degradation from their past. Fear can get the best of any of us on the journey because we don't know what lies ahead. Even if what is behind us wasn't great, at least we know it. This was true for the Israelites. We too can get stuck on the journey as if kind of running in place, or worse, walking backwards to our past. In the second week, we explored what we should take with us on the journey, our baggage. If you were there that Sunday, it was quite a powerful moment as we shared each other's baggage. I don't know about you, but when I'm getting on an airplane, my baggage is limited. They're going to weigh it, and I'm not paying for extra luggage. However, if I'm in the car, well, if it fits, I'm taking it. What baggage do we carry on the journey? Jesus encouraged his disciples not to take too much baggage with them on the journey. We carry baggage, some of us more than others, but we're invited to let go of that and lighten our load. Travel light, live light, spread the light, and be the light. On the third Sunday, we focused on the traveling. How are you going to get there? After 40 years, Moses never makes it to the promised land, and the Israelites get a new leader, Joshua, who leads them into the promised land. The leaders, they dip their feet in the water, and the people cross over. They begin to understand that you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. There will always be new places to cross over in life, in the journey, and we cross over with the encouragement of the words that God said to Joshua. Be strong and courageous. The Lord your God is with you wherever you go. As you're traveling, you're bound to see some stuff on the way and to meet some new people. So, what will you see? And who will you meet? On Moses' journey up the mountain the second time, he sees God. After the mountaintop experience with God, Moses descends the mount, and he's aglow. He is shining after he has been with God. Mountaintops experiences have that kind of way of making us shine. They're exciting. There are high points. There are good memories. They're the places we want to journey back to. But we cannot stay there forever. We come down from those peak times, but hopefully we still carry that with us to the next part of the journey. So that's it. Quick summary, 4 Sundays. Done. I hope I honored James in his absence of the last 4 weeks that he preached. So today's the return, the returning. And the returning seems to indicate that something we experienced is going to change us and transform us. Moses came down the mountain. He returned to the people changed, shining, aglow. Jesus, in our scripture reading today, came down from the cross, returned to the people, transformed. When Pastor James returns from his sabbatical, we can expect that he will be changed by the journey that he was on. He will process the experience and be changed and transformed by it. See, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on the experience. If we have truly taken in the experience into our journey, upon returning, we're changed. What did we learn? What transformation took place? How are we newly shaped? The journey experiences change us. How could they not? So, how do we then incorporate these new experiences into our life? Sometimes returning is hard, and it's hard to explain it to somebody else because they weren't there, they didn't experience it, and they're not you. So how do we share our experiences on the journey and bring others along with us? The experiences of our journey should be more than, I think, just mere storytelling. We should also be able to interpret them in such a way that adds to the collective wisdom and knowledge, and they transform others too. Poets Artists, songwriters, and activists, they seem to wear their experiences on their sleeves and give them as a gift to the world. Our collective and our individual histories, they change, create, and inform what happens next in the journey. Who changed you along the way? Who and what transformed you? How has an experience on the journey led you to the next place? In today's scripture reading, it might seem a bit strange to be reading something that's post-Easter, but it really fits. We meet Jesus on his returning. The disciples are most likely walking along the Emmaus road feeling really despondent. You see, their journey has led them straight down the road to the death of the one that they followed and believed in. Jesus has met death face to face, and upon his returning, he has become the transformed Christ figure. As Richard Rohr says, Jesus dies, Christ arose. Jesus is transformed. Death has changed him. He is returned as the Christ. And if you really like that, come join us for the Universal Christ book study, because that's in that book. Tuesdays in July. As the disciples walk the Emmaus road, not knowing how to process the events they've experienced or how the journey is going to continue, they are so blinded in their grief that they don't know it is Jesus transformed that is walking with them on the road. Jesus transformed as Christ who is with them right now. But is it any wonder that they don't recognize him? Because it's not Jesus. The disciples were transformed by the experiences that they had on the journey with Jesus. The stories, they've been told and retold again and again. 2,000 years later, we're still sharing these stories, and you showed up today to hear more of them. But it's more than a story, and that's why you're here, because it's transformative. It's a story that we can all engage in. The crux of the gospel message is one of transformation. That is our work, individually and collectively. Things are not and should not remain the same. So I leave you with 3 things regarding transformation and this returning of the journey. Firstly, allow experiences of the journey to transform you. Do the hard work. Whether that experience is a mountaintop or a really low valley, let it come into your life and fully teach you what you need to learn. We do not transform our pain. If we don't do that, we will most assuredly transmit it. So Richard Rohr says, you see, we prefer the smooth roads, the mountaintop experiences, but it is often the experiences of deep despair and falling that transform us the most. He continues and says, the path of descent is the path of transformation. Darkness, failure, relapse, death, and woundedness are our primary teachers rather than ideas or doctrines. If we are not transformed by our experiences, there's probably a very good chance that we didn't sit long enough in the discomfort. If you can endure it, don't leave the pain too quickly. Don't try to avoid or escape it too soon. Those lambs are going to teach you on the farm. We need to stay long enough for the moment to teach us. We need to remain uncomfortable and have some disorder and chaos until we learn what we need to learn. We need to be willing to be comfortable with discomfort in order to grow. I think we try to avoid and escape the discomfort. Yes, partly because we don't like it and it's uncomfortable, but also because I think underneath there's a fear that maybe it'll never go away if I allow this to happen. I'll stay here forever. I love this quote from the movie The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, and if you've seen it, you know what line I'm going to give you. Everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, it is not yet the end. That's the gospel message. Maybe what would be helpful is the story of the metamorphosis of the caterpillar to the butterfly. I found this on social media this week, and my sister-in-law reposted it. Hang tight, it's not the normal one. People talk about caterpillars becoming butterflies as though they just go into a cocoon, slap on wings, and are good to go. Caterpillars have to dissolve into a disgusting pile of goo to become butterflies. So, if you're a mess wrapped up in a blanket right now, keep going. See, you can find some good stuff on social media if you look. The times of discomfort and hardship, they change us, they transform us, they teach us, they grow us. The times of vacation and retreat change us, transform us, and grow us. The times of rites of passages of our life in the journey, births, deaths, anniversaries, graduations, they change us, they transform us, they teach us, they grow us. When the experience ends, when we learn what we need to learn from the pain, when the trip has come to an end, when the vacation is over, when the mountaintop experience concludes, we returned transformed. How can you find a way to bring your experiences to the collective table to help each one of us learn from you? If you invite us into your story, well, it could be a story that transforms us. So that's the first one. Let your experiences transform you. The second one is to make room for another person to change. It's time for change. We can so easily box people in. You're like this, you always do things like this is who you are. Have expectations of them that don't allow them to change. I'm not the same person as before I went to South Africa, and I'm not the same person now that I've been here for a year either. You have transformed me. I need those closest to me to allow me the space to transform. And we need to allow others that space too. Maybe when Pastor James returns from the sabbatical, it'll be just like on the Emmaus Road, and he'll be here and we won't recognize him. We'll say, who is this guy? He'll be so different. He'll be changed from the journey. We need to allow him the space to change and get ready for whatever he's going to offer us. You see, when we sit long enough for an experience to teach us and grow us, we won't be the same, which is true for others too. So we need to allow space for someone that we sit even on opposite sides of the spectrum to change. We spend so much time arguing and defending our points and growing our tribe that there's such little space for any crossing over or transformation on either side of our very polarized nation. Thirdly, be a lifelong learner. Expect it. Expect change. Expect transformation. Because if we're not growing, then that's what Einstein said. Once you stop learning, you start dying. Seek out opportunities where the experience is not like one you have known. Extend yourself to a different culture. Invite a migrant family, respite in your home. Travel in someone else's footsteps that you do not know. Spend time in the museums of Phoenix that open us up to something new. Transformation. Allow experiences of the journey to transform you. Make room for another person to change and transform. And be a lifelong learner, expecting change and transformation. And remember that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's how easy it is. Do it again where you're seated. Put one foot forward. And the next time you get a bit stuck and you're in need of some transformation, just move your foot and be reminded that it is one step at a time.